Hi, welcome to Quid Pros Quo. I'm Zac.
And I'm Rin.
And today we're talking about editing. We just got through with National Novel Writing Month. We have all of these short stories and these novels sitting around, and we're ready to take them to the next step, which is the editing process. So, Rin, tell us about the different kinds of editing.
So there's line editing or copy editing, and that's like grammatical and sentence syntax and all the like little things that you think of when you edit like an essay for school. For those of you who are still in school or who haven't like done school in a while, think back to your school days. And then there's plot editing or developmental editing, also called revision. We won't go over copy editing. We'll focus on plot editing or revision.
So when we're talking about editing, sometimes it's a bit of a fuzzy term because we could talk about what counts as a second draft and if drafting again it counts as editing and revising. And Rin and I actually come at this question through different lenses. I'm more of the opinion that in the sense that you're revising your prior work when you draft again, that is a form of editing, even if it results in a second draft. And sometimes that results in a story that is pretty different from what you had expected originally. And I have two quick examples for this. The first one was I was writing a short story assignment for a creative writing class. I had an upper word limit. And I found that this story that I was trying to tell, which was about a kid who could spontaneously generate pennies, wasn't working. And I didn't have enough words to develop the idea and tell the story that I wanted to tell. And so as I was trying to make it work, trying to cut down on words and that kind of thing, it morphed into a magical realism tale about paper cranes. And so that was very different from how I had originally set out to write the story. And it has also happened in a recent short story that I've been working on the past few months, where I originally thought of it as more of like a plot-driven kind of fun science fiction thriller and when I was looking at it, and I was like, okay, well the climax isn't working for me thematically, so I need to go in and I need to change it. And what ended up happening is that I took a 20,000 word story and I removed 12,000 words of it in order to make it work. And in the process, it went from being a more plot-driven story to being a more thematic story, which was different than how I had originally expected this entire project to go. But I still count all of that as editing and revising, even though it ends up with draft 2 and draft 3 and so on and so forth.
Yeah. On the other hand, I consider a second draft to be just that, a second draft. I think unless you write really good first drafts, your second draft is if you write really good first draft, then your second draft may be more editing and revising than a second draft. But for me, I write crappy first drafts, as many people do. And I'm like, I don't consider my second draft as editing for most of it.
Yeah, sometimes you need to go through it again just to figure out now that you know where you're going, you can kind of get there in a bit more straightforward route.
And I'm like a chronic underwriter.
Yeah.
So my first draft is often 60,000 words or something, so my second draft takes me up to 70 or 80,000.
Yeah, because you need to go in and add all the descriptions and all that
Exactly.
good stuff.
So when I'm revising, I have this acronym, and I got it from a writing conference I went to, but I didn't write down who the speaker was, so I'm so sorry. If I find the name somewhere or remember it, I will add it to the show notes. But just know that this is not my acronym, it's something I borrowed, but great artists steal, right?
Yeah.
So the acronym is CAST, C-A-S-T, and the first letter, C, stands for celebrate, because you've accomplished so much. Starting or finishing a first draft of a short story or a novel is a big deal, and we don't celebrate it enough most of the time. We just try to rush ahead to the next thing.
Right, and that's one of the things that distinguishes people who go far with their writing to people who are just kind of doing it for fun, and they kind of do scenes here or there, but it doesn't coalesce into a larger project, is being able to finish. So kudos to all of you who have ever finished something. Find some way to celebrate, whether that is enjoying a favorite beverage or having a night out or whatever it may be. Find some way to celebrate.
Yeah. The next letter is assess/ask questions. So to do this, you want to reread. You want to write one-line summaries of the chapters or scenes or whatever you want to do. Then you want to make a list and list with as much specificity as you can what's working and what's broken.
Yeah, this is a great time to pull in your critique partners and your beta readers. And your critique partners and your beta readers will probably end up working on different lists. What I found is that other writers are really good at identifying what's not working, where my beta readers are a lot better at figuring out what is working. And both are important because in the quest to fix what's working or what's not working, you don't want to annihilate what is working. Otherwise, it's like, well, maybe the story is worse off because I fixed this problem, but now I don't have this other cool thing. So you need both perspectives.
Absolutely. The third letter is S, which stands for sort and prioritize the list. So you want to arrange that in broad categories and then prioritize them accordingly. So your broad category examples could be like character, setting, plot/conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Just all of those like basic elements of writing a novel that you need. Pacing could be one of those categories. And you want to tackle the broad picture first before getting to the nitty-gritty. And Zach can talk about this more with like the amnesia code that he was working on.
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier this, I didn't say it by name, but the amnesia code was originally 20,000 words long when I had written everything out, and it was taking shape into something that was getting to be interesting, but the fatal flaw was that the climax wasn't working, and it wasn't doing what I wanted it to do thematically. And because themes matter a lot to me, not in the sense of, oh, I want to write the next great American novel, but just in the fact that I want there to be more to it than, oh, that was a fun story, guys.
Yeah.
I needed to redo the climax, and so what ended up happening is I took out those 12,000 words, which ends up being like 12 different chapters or something. Maybe like somewhere in between 8 and 12 chapters, and that freed me up because now I don't have to worry about making those scenes work and going through and being like, okay, are my emotional beats right? Is the characterization right? Because I don't have to worry about those scenes anymore. I can just take them out and I don't have to worry about them. And in the process of editing and revising, especially when you're killing your darlings, you find out, oh, I don't have to do as much work as I thought because I'm getting rid of all of these things. And then you're going to add in other things probably.
Exactly. And I want to emphasize the idea that no writing is ever wasted.
Mm-hmm.
Like, never delete your work. Put in, like cryogenically freeze your darlings instead of kill them. Yeah. The last letter is T for type, and this is actually making revisions. And, you should make multiple copies of your work as you, do these revisions. Again, don't delete anything. Your writing is not wasted. Practice makes progress.
Yeah, and so if you're working in a word processor, just create a copy of the document and work off of the copy. If you're using Scrivener, you can use screenshots or
snapshots.
I think is what they're called, where you capture the draft and then you can move on and edit it. And at any time, you can go back to a prior draft to get stuff that you need. So if it turns out that the revision that you're doing isn't going to work out and isn't going to do what you want it to do, you can always go back and fix it and get a new one.
Absolutely. Now that we finished the acronym, you have to decide your approach to revision.
Mm-hmm.
And the kind of two camps are you can do it all at once or in bite-sized chunks. And the all at once is like those people who read their whole novel in like a day or a week and just do like a really heavy boot camp.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can do it in bite-sized chunks where you go one chapter at a time.
Yeah, and part of this is personal preference. Another part of it is just personal reality. Because since we're college students, our ability to do big, heavy revision rounds is limited. We only have a couple of weeks during the year where that can actually happen. Whereas depending on where you are inside of your career or what you're doing for work, that may be more feasible for you. But the most important thing is to get started soon. Whether it's just writing or revising for 15 minutes or half an hour, whatever you can do is going to get you further along than if you had never started in the first place waiting for the perfect moment.
Yes, absolutely. So to summarize, we talked about developmental editing and revision. We share the acronym CAST, celebrate, assess/ask questions, sort, and type. And you can approach it either in full or in bite-sized chunks. This has been Quid Pros Quo. Thank you so much for tuning in.